Tonight, we're boarding a freight train that never stops and never forgets. Its steel corridors echo with the footfalls of slaughtered soldiers. Its engine thrums with the heartbeat of something that should have died a century ago. And once you hear its horn, you'll ride the tracks of terror forever. Buckle in, keep the lights low, and pray the doors stay shut, because car 17 is about to claim another passenger. I always believed the Union Pacific ran nothing but steel and steam, until the night I boarded car 17 of the westbound freight marked for Salt Lake. We were deadheading out of Cheyenne, a tight crew of 5 hired guns, tasked with shuttling an empty consist through the granite canyons and backcountry tunnels. Railroad money is good if you don't care about sleep or sanity, but even I had limits. That night, limits meant nothing. The dispatcher's radio hissed with a private channel number I'd never heard, Channel 66, followed by a single directive. Move fast, no stops, do not enter car 17. Then static chewed the rest. When we rolled under a half-moon sky, the yard lights clipped off behind us like someone snuffing candles. I felt the train shudder as if something enormous had leapt aboard. In the side view mirror, a shadow, huge, ragged, crawling, rippled along the length of the consist. I blinked, tried again. Nothing but lunar silver on boxcar rivets. The engineer, Casey, laughed. "You see it too, rookie," he said, yanking open a thermos of black coffee so thick it looked like motor oil. This was my 3rd month on the rails. Casey had 30 years. Enough to ignore the weird. The other 3 men, Briggs, Harlow, and Santos, were inside the trailing locomotives. We kept our cabs dark to spare night vision, so their faces glowed only when they lit cigarettes. We cut west at 53 miles per hour, rock ballast ringing like crushed bones beneath the wheels. 5 minutes in, the horn fired on its own, one long, 2 short, another long, the Morse code for distress. Casey's palm left the console greasy with sweat when he pulled his hand away. Air valve must be sticking, he muttered, though his voice trembled. I'll check the line in Ogden. Except Ogden was 7 hours away, and the horn blasted again. That's when the stink rolled in. I've smelled dead cattle on sidings and bloated coyotes on sun-gouged rails. But this was different. Sweet, cloying, like fruit rotting in a locked cellar. Jesus! Casey gagged. Close the vent. I reached, but the stainless grate rattled open wider on its own, and something dripped through, a black, syrupy ooze that hissed on the heater coils, filling the cab with greasy smoke. I tried to radio back to Briggs. All I got was a flange screech of metal tearing metal, punctuated by what sounded like bones popping from their sockets. Casey slapped the dynamic brakes. No response. I punched the emergency stop. Nothing. We were trapped in a bullet that no longer answered us. The speed climbed. 57, 62, 69. At 73 miles per hour, a voice sang over Channel 66, high and wrong, like a child humming a funeral dirge. They buried us in iron coffins. Now the iron coffins sing. Casey whitened. It's car 17, he whispered. He didn't need to say more. Railroad lore spoke of a wreck back in 1925. A troop train, car number 17, derailed on this same grade. The army sealed the file because every body recovered had been flayed open. Organs stacked neat as ration cans. Some said deserters did it. Others said something came up from the track bed and finished what the crash began. The car was rumored to still roll the line on moonless nights, a phantom made of rivets and rage. But I could see car 17 right behind us, welded bright to the consist, stenciled with a fresh barcode, the paint only a year old. Whatever haunted 1925 should have been long scrapped. Casey's hand dropped to the emergency kit. He shoved a flare pistol at me. You want to live? Cut that damned boxcar loose. I hesitated. Running between locomotives while we barreled at breakneck speed through rock cuts and switchbacks was suicide. But staying meant listening to that lullaby until it drilled through my skull. I popped the side hatch and climbed the ladder, wind like razors. Below, the ballast blurred into a grey river. Stepping across couplers felt like dancing between guillotines. When I reached the forward platform of car 17, the steel door hung ajar. A single, blood-wet handprint smeared the latch. Inside, the corridor was lit by lamps that sputtered like candles drowning in melted wax. Shadows jerked along the walls. Something thumped deeper in the boxcar, slow, deliberate, wet. I forced my boots down the gangway until I found the brake wheel housing. I braced to spin it and uncouple the air hoses. That's when Briggs's voice screamed behind me. I whirled. He stood at the threshold, torso bent at an impossible angle, vertebrae protruding through ripped uniform. Something yanked him backward. He vanished with a crack and a flood of arterial mist. The spray painted the lamp, turning the light black. My brain tore between fight and flee. I cranked the air valve. Frost exploded over the hose coupling as pressure bled. Sparks shot across the sliding knuckle, but the pin refused to drop. The train lurched, car 17 dragging us faster, as though it now had engines of its own. A sound like a baby's rattle played behind me. I spun again. A soldier stood there in a World War I uniform hanging in ribbons. His face was a parchment mask. Beneath it, dozens of teeth chattered in rows that spiraled down his throat. He opened his mouth to full chest width and sucked. The air, the lamplight, the heat of my body, everything rushed toward him. My skin pulled tight against bone. Veins lifted like blue ropes. I fired the flare gun into that abyss. The magnesium bolt lodged in his gullet and burned white hot. For a heartbeat, the corridor glowed hell-bright, revealing dozens more uniformed shapes crawling the ceiling and walls like flies on meat. Then the soldier burst, showering gore that hissed into steam. I sprinted forward, deeper into the car, leaping over crates stenciled Classified War Department. Every lid was pried up. Inside, bones polished mirror clean, arranged into weapons. Ribcage halberds, vertebrae maces, skull grenades stuffed with rusted blasting caps. Someone had built a dead man's armory. The caboose door slammed behind me. I twisted the release wheel. This time the pin sheared free with a metallic howl. Car 17 lurched, slackened, and began to fall back. But my relief died when a lariat of spinal cord cracked out of the darkness, coiled my ankle, and yanked. I hit the diamond plate floor. My knee split open, spraying hot red. The train ahead dragged me tipped upside down across serrated steel as car 17 peeled away. Just before the coupler gap widened beyond reach, I jammed my hammerclaw into a stanchion and, by tendon-snapping luck, pulled free. Car 17 receded into tunnel dark, its lamplights blinking like 6 stars. The last thing I heard from it was that lullaby fading into static. I crawled over the catwalk toward Locomotive 2. Wind scoured my exposed kneecap. Below, the gorge dropped 200 feet, enough to turn anyone into paste. Harlow yanked me up the ladder, eyes white with terror. Behind him, the cab was painted in arterial arcs. Santos lay on the floor, minus his legs. He still breathed, or tried. Every exhale gurgled. Something had chewed his femora down like corn cobs. "Cut the power," he rasped. "Kill the line." I staggered into the electrical bay. Relay boxes buzzed with unnatural resonance, as if thousands of flies nested in the circuits. I slammed the battery knife switch. The diesel prime mover died. But the locomotive kept accelerating. 82, 86, 90. Outside, the tunnel mouth loomed. Moffat Tunnel, 6 miles of black granite ribcage. If the air system failed in there, CO2 buildup would suffocate us. I grabbed Harlow. Jump before the tunnel. We hand-signaled Casey up front. His silhouette gave a thumbs up. We waited too long. The train shot into the mountain's throat, and daylight knifed shut behind us. Immediately, the interior lights of our cab flickered back on, though every breaker sat in the off slot. In the fluorescence, Santos's body levitated, his severed arteries dragged behind him like crimson streamers. Invisible hooks jerked him down the aisle, slamming his skull against steel cabinets until bone surrendered with a hollow gong. He vanished into the engine room, swallowed by hiss and steam. Harlow screamed and bolted. The sliding door between cabs tried to close on him. I wedged an oil bar between the jam and squeezed through after him. Cab 1 reeked of copper and ozone. Casey sat at the control stand, hands still on the throttle lever, but only his hands. The rest of him lay in strips across the windshield, flayed into ribbons that hung and swung with each jolt of track. His wedding ring clicked against the lever as the disembodied fists kept the throttle wide open. Harlow lost all sense, slamming at the dead hands with a wrench. They did not release. The windshield cracked, then spiderwebbed, as if the mountain itself squeezed us. Outside, nothing but black rock swirling past like a cyclone. A klaxon blared, overspeed, 99, 103. Rails sang so loud my teeth buzzed. I grabbed the independent brake handle and yanked, but the air gauge spun to 0. Someone had vented the reservoirs. I glanced at the floor. Solid blood. My boots sloshed. Then the intercom clicked. A chorus of voices, men, women, children, chanted the same phrase over and over. Ride with us. Ride forever. Harlow backed against the electrical panel. Something hammered beneath the grate, denting the metal outward. He raised his wrench like a crucifix. The grate exploded. A swarm of skeletal hands erupted, dozens, maybe hundreds, fleshless and soaked in tar. They seized him, broke his arms backward like twigs, and dragged him screaming into the conduit shaft. The shrieking stopped when his spine snapped loud as a tree trunk. I was alone, save for Casey's twitching hands. The speedometer pegged at 110, redlined. Up ahead, the tunnel would spit us onto a trestle spanning a 400-foot ravine. At this pace, the stress would shatter the rail or toss us on the curve. Either way, we'd be airborne. I remembered the fuel shut-off under the engineer's seat, manual, mechanical, immune to haunts. I dove, groping beneath gore-slick steel. A hand, flayed, missing nails, caught my wrist. Casey's left fist had detached and crawled after me. It ground his ring into my flesh, carving circles until blood waterfalled onto the deck. I head-butted the severed limb. Bones crunched. It skittered off. I yanked the lever. Diesel flame choked and died. The train coasted, but momentum still shoved us. We burst from the tunnel mouth into moonlight. Below, the ravine was a jar of broken knife points. Sparks gazered from the wheels as the brakes finally bit metal on metal. The trestle groaned. Bolts fired like rifle shots. I crawled to the side portal and looked back. Car 17 should have been gone, but there it was, grafted to the last gondola. Impossible. A tumor of rust and writhing shadows. Its door yawned. Inside, faces pressed against the gap. Soldiers without skin. Civilians burned black. Engineers with cored-out eyes. All mouthing in perfect silence, "Ride with us." I made my choice. I leapt. Gravity drank me. Wind tore the scream from my throat. The trestle exploded above, a white blossom of flame as the consist derailed, and the diesel fuel ignited, turning steel into screaming shrapnel. Car 17 fell last, spinning end over end, shedding bodies like sparks before it smashed river rock and came apart in a blossom of black fire. I hit the cold river seconds later. My ribs shattered, left arm snapped. Darkness knit itself into my lungs. I surfaced once, saw the burning train paint the canyon walls in bloody auroras, heard hundreds of voices howling joy and agony in the same breath. Then debris rained down, hot iron, severed limbs, burning timber, forcing me under. When I crawled onto the far bank before dawn, I was the only thing left breathing. The dead railroad ran silent. Yet on the breeze, far down line, I heard the horn again. One long, two short, one long. The phantom calling for me to climb aboard. I still hear it every night, no matter where I sleep. It's closer now. And sometimes when I wake, my hands aren't attached. They're at the door, reaching for the knob, eager to ride forever.